Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slot One Super Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 46. That's so crazy to say, dude. I know it's like, I swear we say that.
We say that every week now, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, I'm like, wow, I can't believe we're already this far. When we get to episode 50, man, it's going to be nuts. Well, I am, of course, joined by my usual lovely co-host, the Masked Ningen. Unfortunately, Minato's Flash maybe should be renamed to Minato's Sparking at this point because he has abandoned us once again to play Sparking Zero at Evo, but he will be back next week. But taking his place for this week, we have a special guest. Yes, he transformed into Ichigo. We have special guest Vill. Say hello, my friend, and tell us a little bit about what you do in the Dokkan community.
Hello. It's I'm happy for you guys to have me. It's been, I don't know why I said it's been, but what do you want to know about me? I do a lot of content for beginners in this game, so maybe those of you listening do not know or do not need it, but I also have a series that you guys might enjoy where I started over called Zero to Hero. You know, we got Zero Stones, all that fun stuff, and we are now moving into building a, insane team with Beast Gohan and stuff like that, and kind of taking over, trying to truly become, a hero and have like an end game account. But who knows how long that's going to last, how long it's going to go. But yeah, been doing Dokkan content for a few years now, and it's fun to finally join, a show like this, and I'm excited to talk about Dokkan today.
Awesome. You love to see it. So yeah, definitely go check out Vill in the description below. His channel is added down there if you are interested. That is, what's funny? I swear I saw this series I recommended, so that's good to know that that's you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we have plenty to talk about today, obviously, for JP and Global. I know, it's a miracle. Both things have stuff to talk about. We have part 2 on JP for the Tanabata celebration, and as well we have actually the beginning of part 2 on Global for the anniversary, but obviously we have some stuff going on right now on Global as well. But we are going to start off with JP. So we have a brand new LR on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. This was an LR that people were pretty much anticipating was being the case. No, not Gohan be silly. No, listen, you're getting a little ahead of yourself. Don't worry, I'm excited for him too. We can't get there just yet. Yes, that's right. We have AGL LR Jiren coming to Dokkan, which is really cool. We have not had a LR Jiren unit in the game for quite some time. I believe it's 6 years, if I'm remembering that correctly, from when
oh god, is it that
TEQ
long?
LR Jiren came out? Let me double check that. 4. That's right. That's right. I was gonna say that sounds a little bit too far. Yeah. So 4 years since our last LR Jiren. Yeah, it's kind of wild considering that he is the person who fought Ultra Instinct Goku. We've gotten, more Ultra Instinct Gokus in that time, but this unit was pretty much like not like confirmed, especially since the Rose incident. I don't think we could say that anymore, but it was pretty clear that this guy was going to be the part 2 LR for this celebration, especially considering the title screen and everything. So it's cool to see that he finally has a brand new LR and only strengthening the Super Bosses team as well. This guy's pretty interesting because obviously I don't know if it's just going to be a Tanabata thing, but it's kind of interesting that this is now the second unit only after Super Saiyan 4 Goku to transform via the standby skill. They didn't do that again until now. I don't know why they just they love to introduce mechanics and just do nothing with it. I don't know. Dokkan's a little bit of a silly game. But I do have a couple of things to say about this Jiren, but I've done enough of a little bit of an intro. Vill, what do you think about this Jiren, having seen him around?
Well, the first thing that you kind of brought up to me was the fact that, he came out 4 years ago, and I find it interesting that they used Jiren for part 2 of Tanabata twice now. That's kind of interesting to me because obviously he was Tanabata 2020. But this guy was like, you're seeing attack stats on Twitter and stuff like that, like 50, 60, 70 million, and he's not bugged like the Gammas were during the part 2 data download for the 9th Annie, where, you're seeing like 60 million and it was clearly a bug. and all the things that he's doing, I think that he's being like invincible in his standby and stuff like that. It's a really fun unit to use. Do I have him? No, but he's really like I've always been clamoring for like a transforming Jiren for like years, dating back to like characters I want to see. So I'm glad that he was delivered or given the justice that I thought that the character deserved. But still have to use him a little bit as a friend support, I guess. That's probably going to be the way I'm going to be using him for the foreseeable future. But definitely an easy coin pickup for me when he does come back.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's really cool. I think that they did a good job representing him as well. Like you were saying, like the, just the big boy damage, basically. Like it feels fitting for Jiren, right? To just kind of like, go all out like that. I think they did a very good job with him. Ningen, what do you think? I know you're over there on Global, but what are we thinking about this man? And I know you're not the biggest Jiren fan, but try and keep your biases aside.
Boo, Jiren. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It was about time, like you said. Jiren that transforms into full power is something that people have been wanting to see in the game for a while. And, as much as I don't like him as a character, it's kind of like the things that we've said about, the eternal wait for LR Kid Buu is... He is essentially like the final boss of Dragon Ball Super, so it makes sense for him to have a little bit more representation. And yeah, having the version that transforms into full power is something that we've been waiting to see for quite some time. I did say, like when I've talked about it in my videos, he is similar to the TEQ Jiren, where his design is... people get really mad when I use the word boring, but it's like very... He just does lots of really big numbers, which doesn't mean he's a bad unit by any stretch. Some of the screenshots and stuff I've seen are absolutely ridiculous. Like VILLUHFY said, he'll be a fun unit to use. Obviously, he's a Carnival LR, so it's kind of tricky when it comes to the summons. Like the we'll talk about his banner in a bit, Theo. I know people want you to talk about the banner, but like,
I'm ready.
He doesn't have pity like a Yellow Coin LR. Solo release Carnival LRs have been really awkward ever since their inception. Like, we know when there's a double Carnival thing, it's going to be like anniversary, worldwide celebration. Like that's when we know we're going to see them again. But then these ones that have come out on like random solo banners, you've got like the Super Saiyan Trio came out, was it December? Obviously, they've now finally come back for the first time, but only now in July. So like the thing is with these Carnival LRs, like, it's an interesting idea from its inception, but like until we have more of them or they like drop the banners more frequently, the units don't come back like often enough. Like I think we were talking about on the stream the other day, like Omega, obviously with him being delayed with like the global shenanigans, came out I think early February on global and has never been back on a banner, and obviously the Super Saiyan Trio haven't returned on global yet either. So bit awkward when it comes to potentially getting your hands on this guy. Obviously, we have no idea with things that will happen with the sync, what's going on with Tanabata, like where he will come out on global. But he definitely seems like a fun unit. The fact that he has that, I do kind of like these characters with the standbys where they can't attack for like the one turn, but then they're basically invincible. So you just kind of get like a free slot one tank, and then on the next turn they transform. The only last thing I wanted to mention is I do think it is kind of funny that even though he's the Part 2 Carnival LR and not the Part 1 Dokkan Fest like Goku was, it's kind of funny that it's like 2 Tanabatas in a row. We've had a character that goes into a standby where they can't attack and then transforms into full power as the Tanabata, like a Tanabata LR, because it was Super Saiyan 4 Goku last year and then this guy this year. But yeah, I've seen some of those wacky screenshots of him like tanking a super in slot 1 and then doing like a 72 million attack stat super and stuff like that, which is insane. So yeah, he seems like he could be a lot of fun. Like I say, I'm not a huge fan of the character himself, but definitely a crazy unit. Also interesting that he has the double 200% leads as well, the first Carnival LR with the 2 categories. So yeah, definitely interesting.
It's something interesting to mention with that too, because it's like, it's so weird with the double leader skill thing, because it's like he does have 2 leader skills, but it's almost like not really, because it's like the only difference, right, is just that. So for Turner and a Power, he gives the 3 key 200%, but then for Universe 11, right, it's literally just 200% still, but he just gives 4 key, right? So it's like, it's so weird because it is, right? Like it is definitely technically a double 200% leader skill, but it's so weird because, you know, obviously all the Universe 11 units are on Tournament of Power. So, you know, they're still all under that leader skill. It's just that they're obviously getting that extra 1 key, which is nice because obviously I think the team definitely like needs the help. But right, I think that is really interesting. It kind of makes me wonder, you know, I don't know if they actually like thought this through or not, or even if like, you know, maybe when we're in our 80s, we'll finally get to see Jiren and Toppo again in the anime at the pace that we're going, unfortunately. But, you know, like it kind of makes me wonder, like, does that mean that like eventually, right, we'll get to see these characters outside of the Tournament of Power, right, where it would be like we'll finally get like a Jiren and a Toppo that aren't on Tournament of Power because they came in like a previous arc, you know? I don't know, or maybe Dokkan's just not thinking that far ahead. I'm not really sure. But either way though, yeah, this guy is very interesting. I feel like the whole thing about the boring kit, I will say, I think for me, I feel like maybe the word would be more to use as like basic rather than boring.
Yeah,
it's just like, you know, because boring kind of sounds like it has like a negative connotation, even though I know in this context it kind of really doesn't. It's just like big dammy, big defense.
Yeah.
You know? I think basic is maybe more the word to use for him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So, real quick, animation wise for this guy before we move on to me defending the banner, I guess.
Yep.
So when it comes to the animations for this guy, so this is a little bit of a hard one because I actually really like Jiren. I have definitely grown to like the character a lot more over the years. He's just cool. Like he just exudes an aura, bro. Like I don't mean that in like the literal Dragon Ball aura. I mean like he's just like him. I don't know. He's just a very cool character. I know the backstory for him. A lot of people, that's what people take criticism with a lot. I think it's just, not only is it the fact that like we haven't gotten to see him again since the Tournament of Power, so they haven't gotten to expand on his backstory a lot more. Because it kind of felt like that they were almost like teasing it or just giving you like a little bit of like a basic, right? It's like, you know, when you first meet somebody and they give you a little bit of their lore, right? You know, it's like you don't get all the details from the get-go, but then when you get to know them a little bit more, obviously you learn more about them. And it kind of feels like that sort of thing where it was like the basics were in play, but we didn't get the full story yet. So either way though, in terms of the animations, I think, unfortunately, in this case, this is a case for me where I kind of thought that they were very in the middle. I don't think that they're bad, but I don't think that they're fantastic either. I don't think that they're on the tier of Goku, unfortunately. That was what I was kind of hoping for. That you know, they would definitely be like at least on Goku's level, but I feel like they're kind of even lower than that. I know I've even seen some people saying that they prefer TEQ Jiren's animations, which I was like, low key, that's kind of crazy. But in the animation analysis video, I went back and watched the TEQ Jiren animations for the video. Like in the video, and I was like, you know what? I see the vision at least because they kind of feel more like, it's weird. It's crazy to say that, but I feel like it's weird because Dokkan seems to prioritize these days, like making them look a lot more accurate to the anime art style, rather than making them as like fluid as they could possibly be and like more coherent in the way that the moves flow together. Because like certainly the art style is like, it's just the Tournament of Power art style for this Jiren for sure. And like TEQ Jiren artistically looks a lot more like kind of like a Dokkan essay, which obviously isn't a bad thing. But I think that the attacks kind of flow together a little bit better in terms of like the choreography for the TEQ Jiren. So I understand where people are coming from that. I think he's just kind of in the middle personally. I think he's not the best, but he's not the worst. But either way, let's talk about that banner.
You guys didn't mention the transformation scene. I think that's probably like
true. Yeah, why don't you talk about it? Go for it.
All right. I just for the sake of the discussion, I'm rewatching it right now, and I think that really the best part about it is like after he transforms, right, the way it kind of slowly pans up and zooms in on him. I think that's like the best part of it, of his animations to me at least. And I also like the intro for the standby where he kind of just like turns around and is like, "All right, I'm done. You guys can handle it now." It's like, yeah, I already did my job. But yeah, I think you are right though. Like they're not the best animations in the world, but they're certainly not bad.
Yeah. Which I guess I would definitely rather have that than just straight up bad. Though.
Well, that's the thing. I said about, I made a tweet like after I saw them as well, and it's like, you know, I don't want to say they're bad. It's just that, you know, sometimes it's like you see animations for some of these characters, and even if the technical quality isn't necessarily the best, but like you see some of these super attack animations sometimes, and you just get like hyped. It's like, oh yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, none of his animations are really like that for me. They're all just like, yeah, these are okay. Like, they're not bad, but I'm not like, you know, they don't excite me or anything, you know, like, which is unfortunate. But I guess it's one of those things, as much as it shouldn't be an excuse. It's kind of like, he is technically just a Part 2 LR, even though he is a Carnival LR. So I don't know what the, where the bar should be set for those. Like, if people were expecting him to have the same amount of work put into his animations as like UI Goku, for example, I think we can't really expect like them to be on the same level. Although surprisingly, I saw a couple of people saying that they were big fans of Omega's animations when we were talking about this guy, and obviously he was a Part 2 Carnival LR from last year.
Not over Goku's though, right?
No, not better than Goku.
No.
Just to say that, like, you know, last year's Part 2 Carnival LR had good animations. But yeah, I mean,
funny enough, I actually agree with that. I think Omegas were pretty good. Crazily enough, at least as much as I remember.
I like his revive.
Yeah, it's good. I think the problem for me is that, like, I think the whole issue, and I mean, by this point, I guess we should just kind of be used to it, right? But I think the problem with the Carnival units is that it's the way that they like market them and hype them up that gives your expectations higher than the game delivers on, right? Because like even when they were initially announced, right, it was like, oh, this is gonna be the next big LR, right? Like this is like a step above yellow coin LRs, basically, right? Where, you know, they're like, you know, the next big thing, right, compared to Dual Dokkan Fest. And even so, it seems that they like to somewhat, right, like sometimes, but not always, like treat them on the same level as, you know, like yellow coin LRs, or yellow coin LRs, I'm sorry, like Dokkan Fest LRs, right? Like we had, you know, now with like the 9th anniversary, right? Obviously, we had Gogeta, who is a Carnival LR, who is right there next to Dokkan Fest Broly, and it's not another Dokkan Fest. And, you know, we have the Carnival Gammas, who are right there next to Gohan Beast, you know, who are obviously Carnival unit next to a Dokkan Fest. And obviously, they still do treat them like Part 2 units, you know, like even for like last year's anniversary was the Dual Carnival. And obviously, they still use them as like Part 2 units. They've never been like a Part 1 character or anything. But they still feel like, from the way that they present them, they should be like, almost to me, it feels like a step above Yellow Coin, but a step below Dokkan Fest is kind of the way that I see it. So
it's almost like,
no, go ahead.
It's almost like, because they do the thing now where they've obviously changed it for this anniversary. Who knows if they'll do it again? Who knows if they'll change back the worldwide? Who knows? But like when they market it as being like Dokkan Fest X Carnival, like almost like, you know, it's like a versus, almost like a crossover. Like fighting games always had that, like especially like Capcom games and stuff, it'd be like something X something. It means like versus essentially. It's almost like they are trying to say that they are basically on like the same level. It's like, here's a Dokkan Fest, here's a Carnival LR, boom, head to head, like same time. So if they're going to market them in that way, then obviously, you know, we would kind of have those expectations to be that little bit higher. And you can say that obviously expectations should be higher for the anniversary units, but it's like Carnival LRs as a whole, if they're going to be this like new big thing that, as we say, are like the next level of LR above yellow coins, then yeah, we kind of, that's where those higher expectations come from, which I think is fine, because obviously like we've had yellow coin LRs over the years that have got good animations, so it's not like yellow coin LRs have to have bad animations. So I think it's okay to have expectations for these like Carnival LRs to be at a certain level. But like I say, you know, his animations are certainly not bad. There's just nothing like, from when I watched the reel of like the, you know, what they post with all the animations back to back, there weren't really any standout ones that I thought were like really good, but I didn't think any of them were bad. So I think some of them do look better in times 2 as well, actually, now that I have seen clips, which is a thing sometimes as well. But
always something you got to remember, like when they initially come out. I feel like I always say that. It's like they'll probably be better sped up.
Yeah. So it's weird how like, most
funny.
of the time they're better, and then I think there's only the very few occasions. The one that still stands out, the one that still stands out all the time, because I still use him from time to time, especially now with the new Gogeta, is the STR LR Gogeta from the 5th anniversary. Like his animations on times 2 are so fast, like you almost miss like half of what's going on. It's crazy.
Bro's cooking, bro. He's trying to get it done.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very like, because obviously I do the, you know, analytical side of the animations. I'm so like mixed on the whole like 2 times speed thing, because sorry, there's a bug in my room. It keeps flying by my face. It's always like a little bit of a mixed bag for me, because it's like on one hand, yes, that is true, and that's how you'll like see them most of the time, right? But the thing is, I don't know, I feel like still, if the animations don't look good in 1 time speed, it's like a thing of like the fundamentals, you know, already still are bad. It's just like making it faster, like sure it helps, but I feel like that still doesn't change the fact that, you know, like they're still lacking in the like base, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm definitely unsure of the unpopular opinion on that, though, which is fine. I don't mind being in the minority on that one for sure. But I still feel like it's just like, well, it kind of feels like an excuse to me, I guess is the best way to put it. Even though it's an excuse that's correct. I don't know. But either way, though, maybe it's just my way of coping. Who knows? Regardless, though, let's since we've gotten everything out about Jiren, it seems. Oh, I guess the last thing that I will mention real quick now that I say that is that the only thing that kind of stinks is they didn't show that de-transformed animation in the initial like animations that they showed, which was really weird.
Yeah, I only saw that because you posted about it, funnily enough.
Yeah, I posted it because on, you know, Thieving 6's Dokkan Wiki, you can you know, you can obviously like, you know, see the animations and just click on them. So it's kind of interesting that they didn't show that. Sometimes they don't. Like there's a couple of things that they don't show in the Twitter video, and I always don't understand why they do, because like honestly, when that animation dropped, I saw more people getting excited for like Jiren from that animation than I did like the rest of his animations, which was really funny. So I don't know why they don't like put everything in there sometimes, but Dokkan's a little bit of a funny game. Regardless though, let's go ahead and talk about that banner. Oh boy. All right. So I don't know if you have an image of it, Ningen, to put up, but I can just read out the characters. It's fine.
Wait, which one, sorry?
The like actual Jiren banner.
Oh no, like, I don't have an image for the banner.
Okay. So I know a lot of people have been clowning on me on the Twitter timeline for giving my opinion on this, but that's okay. Like I said, I personally thought that the banner was pretty good, to be honest with you. It's obviously not like, you know, we're not talking like Dokkan Fest anniversary level or anything like that, but the banner units on here are obviously Jiren himself, the Super Saiyan Trio, right? The Christmas Carnival LR, the LR5 guys, as we like to call them, the one from the Hachiyak special, TEQ LR Jiren, Int Topo, and then Int Android 16, TEQ 18, TEQ 17, Fizz Cooler Movie Goku, where he has his hand above his head for the SSR, and then the AGL Final Flash Vegeta, the really old one, right? So I understand that like some of the units are definitely kind of like stinky and aged out by now for sure, right? Like you know, Goku and Vegeta and 16 are kind of a little bit aged by now. But 17 and 18 just got EZAs, and as far as I understand, the EZAs are pretty good. So they just got EZA'd. Topo, right? You're obviously going to need him for the Universe 11 mission that they just implemented on the new Blue Zone stage. TEQ Jiren is just about to get an EZA because we know that from the data download. Granted, I suppose this banner's value will definitely go down a little bit if TEQ Jiren is not good. We'll talk about him in a minute, and that'll actually be a good transition into it. You know, hopefully he will be good, but with the track that they've been on, we would think that at least his EZA will be pretty good. And then at least, you know, the LR5 guys, I think they're still pretty decent, right? I don't think I've used them in like super hard content lately, but I think that they're like not the worst option, right? Like they're not terrible, but they're not like great. The Super Saiyan trio, I still think that they're good personally. I don't think I've ever had like any issues with them really, and then obviously Jiren is Jiren himself, so I don't know. I think that this banner is like still pretty good. I don't think that you know, it's not like the best banner in the world or anything like that. You know, I'm not putting it on the same tier as like, you know, Dokkan Fest banners or even like, you know, UI's banner himself or anything like that. But I'm just saying I don't think it's that bad.
I think
yeah, what do you think though?
I think with carnival banners, it's kind of like what we see is what we get, and we know how they're going to be doing these with these random SSRs that are in there. And 60, if I'm not mistaken, 16 sub EZA is not like the worst thing in the world. So if you look at the first thing featured, these are all 8, I'll say like okay to great characters, and obviously Jiren is Jiren, but like, you know, the return of the Super Saiyan trio, that's a really valuable unit for those who have Gogeta and Broly, perhaps, and they're a Super Saiyan lead. You can run both of them at the same time, but then you just say, like, why wouldn't I run Broly as a leader? But you never know. Super Saiyans could be, like, a really good team if Namek is covered for worldwide or something like that. You never know. That could be a valuable lead to have. And like you said with Topo, right, that Universe 11 mission for a lot of people is going to be a pain, and he's going to be someone that you want to have, so... That's I think it's like not the worst banner we've ever seen. We've definitely had worse, and it's like, you know, we talked about 3 featured LRs being the bar for like a good yellow coin banner. Like I remember when they made that change. So it's like, you know, having 4 featured LRs that are potentially going to be really good. I think that's a W in it itself.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. I feel valid.
And it's double rates too.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing
true.
to think about too. Is that since this is a carnival banner, it is 2 times rates, so you will be having not only a good chance for those unfeatured LRs, but obviously, 2 times rates. So that is pretty good. Ningen, anything on this before we move on to TEQ Jiren? Speaking of him,
I just thought it was funny seeing the controversy surrounding your take on the banner. But yeah, I didn't think it was a bad looking banner either, especially with the EZAs being announced. Obviously, the Super Saiyan trio returning for the first time, which is probably to be expected. You know, I said before when we started talking about Jiren with these carnival LRs, sometimes they take too long to come back. And like the thing that stood out for me the most with the LR 5 guys, as we're calling them, is on Global, by the time they came back on a banner for the first time, they were already at the point where they were struggling in the content. Because I think they came back for the first time for Global. I think they might have put them on the worldwide Part 2 banners because we didn't get the anniversary ones. And obviously, you know, the Dismal Future Red Zone kind of invalidated a ton of units that were not super defense heavy right from the start of events. So it was really disappointing. Like, it took me loads of stones to pull the 1 copy of the LR STR Carnival Goku, and then by the time he came back and I could get dupes for him, like, he wasn't good in the current content, which was very disappointing. But yeah, like, the Super Saiyan trio is still really good. The Super Saiyan team is really good. I did a run against, like, Red Zone Kid Buu, who's probably still, at this point on Global, the hardest boss, with the Int Super Saiyan team, and they still did really well. Obviously, now that Broly and Gogeta are out, like, take Vegeta from Saiyan Day, like, that Super Saiyan team is really, really good. And yeah, the Super Saiyan trio are still very solid, so definitely a decent banner for sure. And then, yeah, I completely forgot that there's double rates as well. So, yeah, not bad at all.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm valid. Let's go.
He's back, baby.
Dude, yeah, we're so back. You know, it's so funny. I just watched Sonic 2 for the first time the other day. That scene where man comes back and Agent Stone is like, anyway. Very good movie. You should check it out. Regardless though, yeah, I actually am pretty excited to summon on this banner, especially after getting absolutely shafted on Goku. I still, by the way, I don't know if I ever like brought it up again on the podcast. On that Goku banner, I ended at 1,200 stones without Goku, unfortunately.
What was it with you and the part 1 Tanabata units?
Oh no, bro! I don't know, man.
That's what Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and now this.
Yeah, like after last year and then all this, bro, I think I might just like wait for you, Goku. I don't know. I'm a broken man at this point. Maybe I'll throw a multi or two on the Tanabata banner. We'll see. But at this point, I think I'm gonna summon for Jiren. But either way, though, yeah, definitely going to be interesting as well to see, obviously, how this banner and UI himself come into global as well, because obviously we talked about, or well, we did talk about this on the podcast, yeah. When the I believe it was like the Dokkan Hour, the producer level, or whatever it was for the anniversary, they talked about how obviously, a lot of this content they're basically going to have to try and figure out where it's going to go. So that will be very, very interesting to see where that ends up. Oh, I remember the final thing I wanted to say about the shenanigans about the banner. It didn't help that like 5 minutes after I tweeted the banner's low key heat, Truth was like, yeah, this banner sucks. I was like, no! I was like, I'm cooked. I'm so cooked, bro. But anyway, moving on from the whole banner thing. Jiren, the TEQ EZA. Right, we did see that in the data download, they added the EZA medal for this guy, and they added the event assets for the EZA. However, they didn't actually add his data, right, which is really interesting. I don't remember the last time they did something like this, because it's really strange, right? Like usually, if they do something like this, they just kind of add it all in at once, like where, it will be in the data and, like the EZA event will be there and everything. They never did? Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't remember if it happened once before. Thank you for
Did they not do it for Rose? There
was
like a big, the LR. Wasn't there like a big controversy where like they added him into the data early, and that was like the not cope, but like people were like doomsday prepping that he wouldn't happen for worldwide?
I think his data was in the game, though.
Okay, like maybe you might be right. I mean, I'm not the guy to talk about it, but I just know that like there was like a phase where people were like, maybe it's just not for worldwide. So I thought that might have been the same thing.
Maybe I don't remember. Proton did say for Rose it was the My Data banner, which is the little thing that like you click on to get the thing on your profile. Yeah. Either way,
okay,
it's still like, just very weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a strange thing since it's so uncommon. I don't know if it's like, maybe they're trying to like hide the kit or something, but then they like, think that people wouldn't see it, but they know we look at the assets in the game. I don't know. It's really weird.
You'd think with him being on Jiren's banner as well, like if they showed what his EZA was, people might be more tempted to summon on the banner potentially.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah. I was gonna say like tinfoil hat. Like they just want people to assume Jiren's EZA is gonna be good, and they're gonna summon because they think it's gonna be good.
And then it's gonna be terrible.
Like, we already got your stone suckers. Like,
that's crazy. Yeah. Like, but that's the thing that's so confusing to me too. You would think that like if they were gonna do this, right, and even if they didn't add his like kit into the data, why would they not announce the EZA in game in the news? Because would that not make people more inclined to then summon on the banner? Because they're like, oh, I don't have Jiren and he's gonna get an EZA. Like, people have been playing the game for long enough, are smart enough to know that that probably means that he's gonna get an EZA, because obviously it's happened time and time again. So by this point, people are just like, okay, yeah, this probably means EZA incoming. But I would think that they would like just throw the little banner image in the news, right? Like I know that they like to do that where they kind of like to hide the EZA to have it be a little bit of a surprise for later in the celebration. But you would think that, they would like do that for the summons for the double rates banner to give more incentive to that. I don't know. Very strange, right? In that regard, for sure. Proton did also mention the most common thing that they screw up is to put the EZA SA animation effects in their scripts. Right. This time they went the opposite, everything but those scripts. Interesting. Very weird. But either way, right now, all we can do is speculate on Jiren's kit. So, what do you guys think that we will be looking at for Jiren in terms of the EZA? He has a very... I'll read you real quick just so that we all, even those of us in chat, have a basic idea, and then Vil, I'll throw it over to you for maybe some predictions as to what he can do. So for his base kit, this guy is pretty much like a clean slate when it comes down to it. He is funny enough, he kind of does a similar thing to what AGL Jiren does for the leader skill, but Universe 11 key +3, all stats 170, and then Universe Survival Saga key +3, all stats 150. And as well, the SA is colossal damage to the enemy and greatly lowers defense. Ultra Super is causes mega colossal damage and massively lowers defense with a medium chance of stun. And then his passive is attack and defense plus 200%, with each attack received up to +5. Attacks effective against all types when the target enemy is attack down or defense down status. Performs a critical hit when the enemy is stunned. And then his active is attack and defense plus 30%. All enemies attack and defense -30, and stuns all enemies for 1 turn. And then it can be activated after the character receives attack 5 or more times in battle once only. So what do you think? What do you think we can expect to see with this man?
You threw it over to me to start, so I think that we need some raising in the super attack effects here. Like, I'm looking at it on Dokkan Info, and the only symbols we have are lowering, right? Where it's like we have that 30% chance to stun, and then we need some extra defense for sure. Because 200% at the start of turn is not enough in today's day and age, right? Where it's like this guy, we saw like, 250k or whatever he had turn 1 at the time when he came out. And it's like, wow. But nowadays it's like, okay, you can't even go for a normal in slot 2, even if you did raise your defense, right? So I think that's the most, maybe not the most important thing, but one thing I think that I can throw in for free, that they're going to have some type of attack and defensive raising on the super. I believe effective against all types on the lower of the the debuff status. I don't know if that needs to stay. I feel like this is a character that's not going to do so much damage to the point where like him being effective against all types for free might not be the end of the world. But yeah, guaranteed crits when the enemy is stunned. I think that's fine, but maybe the stun chance would have to go up for that. Perhaps more attack and defense, but I mean, it's always just going to come back to the safe things, right? It's like, how does this character get guard? Would it be restricted? Do they need damage reduction? Maybe key per orb. A lot of things that they could do, but this character doesn't have like a skeleton where, like we think about it like a unit like a Golden Frieza with damage reduction, where it's like, this is going to be a good skeleton, or TEQ Gohan, right? For example, we were talking about how he was viable 4 years later and before the EZA, and having guard is a good skeleton, but this character doesn't have that. So I think that they need to add additional mechanics onto this guy. Nothing like unique, like a taunt or anything like that, obviously, but just enough to get this guy with guard and damage reduction, maybe to really get him to be viable. It's tough though.
Yeah, stuff like, the thing is, like, having...
I think without the skeleton, for sure.
Yeah, like, having guaranteed crit when the enemy is stunned is one thing, but, like, there's obviously not a lot of end game events now where you can actually stun bosses. So, guaranteed stun on... guaranteed crit... True. Guaranteed crit when the enemy is stunned is cool, but then he should probably also have, like, high chance to crit or something just in general, because...
Right.
When he came out, there were still some events where stunning was viable. Super Battle Road was still kind of hard back then, before all the crazy 200% leads and everything. But yeah, now there's not many events where you will be able to stun, so it's like that part of his passive is essentially useless. So yeah, having some like other crit chance just if the enemy isn't stunned would be good. And then yeah, I kind of agree just with what VILLUHFY was saying, like the stun chance should be higher, even though, like I say, not lots of places you can use it, but medium chance is just kind of, it needs to be at least high chance. Because doesn't, like, when the new Jiren transforms into full power, I think it is, I don't think it's in base, he just guaranteed stuns on his 18 key super. So yeah, this guy having like a high chance or something would be fine. And then yeah, I mean, he could get extra defense because he's only got the 200%. Of course, LRs, when they get EZAs, they don't get any extra levels or anything, so their base stats don't go up. So that 200% should definitely be increased. And then yeah, raising defense on super is always nice. And then, of course, if he is going to raise defense on super, whether it's for the turn or infinite, it doesn't really matter. Potentially some sort of additional chance in his passive would be good, even if it's restricted in some way, shape, or form, right? Because obviously with the events that we have at the moment, especially with like the new blue zone on JP, the blue zone stages that we've already got like from the anniversary, he could easily have like dozen additional super against like a pure Saiyan or Realm of Gods enemy or something like that, right? And then obviously that would be useful in a bunch of the end game content. And then if his 12 key super attack effect is something that is actually useful, then obviously that doubles up and becomes effective in those events. But obviously this guy's interesting because he is a very blank slate, right? He is the original, like the big caveman unit, right? It's just all big stats, does big damage, and then yeah, has raw defense, which VILLUHFY mentions stuff like guard and damage reduction. It feels like nowadays of how hard some of these bosses are hitting, like units need that if they're going to be tanking, especially like super attacks. But obviously if they make his stats high enough, then it can be okay. But yeah, very interesting to see. This is one of those ones where they really have the opportunity. Like they're either not going to do a huge amount and he'll be decent, but nothing like crazy, or they could, you know, just do whatever and just give him all sorts of like crazy stuff. So
I think something interesting is the fact that if you look at the transform version of the AGL Jiren, you know, I was talking about how 200% isn't enough. The passive on this guy starts with key plus 11 and attack and defense plus 400%.
Yeah, 400%. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
keep that
wild.
in mind. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean,
And then
obviously, because
also-
you don't get him out turn 1, which is why
Right.
it's so high. But like, yeah, this guy could easily go up to like 300% or something with his
300,
passive. Yeah.
300 with some guard, some damage reduction. I think the bar really should just be like, it was kind of what I've always said about like STR Super Vegito. It's like if he can take normals, that's enough. Because like with the scouter, especially with this Jiren, he has a scouter. If you can protect him and find where the supers are at, then you won't be in any trouble. Because you know, I don't think they want to make this Jiren quite like nowhere near the level of this AGL one. Because then why would you summon? But if they can make him good enough to take normals, run on the U11 team, the Universal Survival Saga team, and be good enough, I think that's like a realistic bar.
That AGL Jiren, with a bunch of the stuff that he has in his kit, he wants to be in slot 2 a lot of the time, right? So they could give this guy like damage reduction before he attacks, and then like guard if there's a Universe 11 ally on the rotation or something. So they basically make him so that he is like the slot 1 unit for LR Jiren, essentially. Because then if you don't have him and you summon for the new Jiren and you pull him, then you're like incentivized to maybe summon on the banner again or use coins or whatever to try and get this guy, if then he becomes the go-to slot 1 unit for the AGL one. So something like that I think would be quite good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's kind of like the key for me. I think as long as they make this guy like a good slot 1 unit, I think we're golden, since AGL Jiren wants to be 2 and 3. This kind of feels like one of those things where Dokkan's setting themselves up for a slam dunk, and then either they'll fail or they'll succeed, and there will be no in between because we've seen them do both. So I'm hoping that they succeed. Oh man. All right. Well, in terms of JP units, that is obviously everything that we have for right now. I think we've talked about the big men long enough. I know Ningen's seething over there with all this Jiren talk. That's crazy.
That's all right.
But nah, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
He's all right.
But yeah, he's all right. Regardless, I think we should move on to global now. I know that I do want to at least mention it just in here. We could talk about the new blue zone stages, but I think we do want to move on to global. And also, obviously, Vill, you play global, don't you? Right?
Oh, I'm a JP guy.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
okay.
I was going to say, we could talk about the blue
all right,
zone
well,
stages a
hold
little
on.
bit.
Never mind that, bro. But let me back it up real quick. I was going to say,
Right.
I know.
Back it up.
Let's go. I didn't know. I thought I was the only JP player in the room. You love to see it. All right. Well, in terms of the new blue zone stages on JP, right? That was the main content. Oh, and I guess also the SBR stage, but like, you know. So we had the new stages of the blue zone. I believe it was 5 and 6, if I remember correctly. Would you like to talk about the new stages? Have you played them yet?
Yeah, I got the no item run done for both of them, so must not have been too bad because I don't have UI Goku War Jiren. But I thought that the second fight was more interesting. The UI Goku fight I didn't really really notice much. It just kind of felt like your typical kind of run-of-the-mill hard boss. And maybe I just got lucky. I don't know. But I found that the Android 17 phase was the one that kept getting me in the Goku and Frieza fight. And I mean, you guys know, like locking is always going to be a pain in the ass.
Oh my god, yes.
So that's what he does. And then Goku or 17 and Frieza in the next phase have a guaranteed hit. And so obviously without having like UI Goku around on my own team, getting there in like turn 3 or turn 4, you're not going to be able to activate that yet. So it takes a bit to get there. 17 caught me 2 or 3 times, and then I lost again in the Goku and Frieza or the Goku and I don't know why I keep saying Goku, but 17 and Frieza phase. But then once I got UI Goku's domain as a friend support active in the Goku and Frieza stage, it felt pretty easy. But the big thing I think that a lot of people want to talk about is the damage negation.
Yeah.
You know, usually we talk about less than 1 million damage doing 0 damage. We're talking about less than 5 million, but this guy, I know, 10 million damage. If you don't do more than that, you're not getting any damage in.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
I had UI
So
Goku's
much.
domain, right, doing crit counters that were under 10 million in the first part before he supered, and it was like 0 damage. I saw Beast Gohan do like an 11 million super, and it did 0, and I had to do a double take. I'm like, what did he just? Let's say 0 damage, right? And I didn't know. I went into the fight blind, so I didn't know. But then I found out it was 10 million, and it was like, this is where UI Goku's domain is just going to be stupid because it's making Evolution Blue Vegeta hit for 38, 39 million. UI Goku hitting for 35 plus million. You're getting those triple supers, triple crits in, and you're really gaming. Like, you're able to get through pretty quick, right? So once I managed to kind of get everything set up with that Universal Survival Saga team and get it going, which is like one of the best teams in the game right now, behind superheroes, obviously. But I thought it wasn't too bad, but definitely a tricky fight where if you don't have the right setups and you get unlucky, you will get caught. It's not always going to be like an easy run with superheroes like every other event has felt like up to this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard people saying to
agree
me
with you
about the 10 million damage thing. I think I did see a clip someone posted of UI Goku, just countering multiple attacks and just doing 0 damage. That's crazy.
After he supers, the damage goes up a bit,
Yeah.
right? After he did his supers, he was critting for like 11 million, and it's like, okay, there goes the HP. But yeah, Beast Gohan doing 0 damage made me think, like, what in the world did they have planned for Worldwide?
That's true. Honestly, that is going to be crazy to see. I know there's been a lot of discourse about this stage, especially on the old twitter.com. People talking about like the difficulty level and stuff for the stage, but I don't know. I've seen some people like really kind of like, oh my gosh, this is the next big power creep in Dokkan. But I've also seen some people saying like, oh, this is kind of just like a one-off thing because they talked about that they want to make the fights a little bit more varied in terms of like how the hard difficult fights in the game work, because it's been like kind of the same for so long. They have a little bit of variety in the recent years, but they really emphasize that they want to like try and make the events feel a little bit different in terms of like how they play. So this kind of feels like one of those things where it's like it's not going to be like every stage will be like this. It's more just like they're trying to make it a little bit more unique. So I think that is pretty cool. Honestly, I am still working on the stages myself. I beat stage 5. But I was trying. I should honestly just beat it one time through with like just whatever team. I was trying to do stage 6 with it's High Speed Battle. That's right. I was trying to think of the other one that wasn't Universe 11. I was trying to beat it first with that team, and I've been getting nuked a little bit on my runs, and I haven't been able to play as much the last couple days. So I'm still in the thick of it. But yes, I do agree though with Bill that it really feels like, and maybe it's just every stage that does this, but the locking just sucks so much, especially when you want these like really specific rotations, right? If you're running a team where it's like these 2 units need to be together, and it's not like a lot of the units you can kind of just throw around wherever. That's always really tough.
I know global players are dealing with a lock right now too.
I was going to say, we just got the Trunks
So-
stage, and that's like the only one that I used out of the 3 new stages that we got. It was the only one that I used an item for when I did my run, like for my video, because you just get to a rotation. Like I purposely bought, because I knew he locked, because obviously I knew about the stage in advance from when the anniversary was on JP. So I bought like the Sensu beam thing to remove status effects, and it's like I didn't want to use it. So like on the turns where I didn't have to, I didn't. But then it's like you get onto a certain rotation, and it's like, okay, well he's locked this unit in slot 1, who isn't a slot 1 unit. So if I don't use an item, I am just dead now in this limited attempts per day event. So So yeah, use the as Toon would say, use an item, dummy. Like, that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the infamous quote.
Get rid of that lock and move that guy out of slot 1 where he does not belong. But I mean, that's the thing, is you can, if you get good RNG, like you absolutely can no item the stages that have rotation locking. But like, that's the thing, if you're committing yourself to like trying to do a no items run, unfortunately you will sometimes just get some of those turns where it's like, right, this guy's locked here, so you're dead now if you're not using an item, and that's just how it goes. So
I'm curious to see what I used on that stage when it was on the JP anniversary, because we didn't have the some of the things that Global has, right? I know you guys have like the Majin Power team that's updated now, obviously, but I'm 95% sure that I got the no item run done. I like what you guys are talking. I could pull it up, but
yeah, I think I just used the Super Bosses team in the end, but because I thought it'd be appropriate to use Goku Blacks against Trunks, so had the Rose and the physical EZA Goku Black on the team.
I think the thing that like, it's so rough about those stages though with the items. I think the thing that's really the killer, right? And I feel like it wouldn't be as big of a deal if it wasn't limited attempts per day.
Yes.
You know, if that wasn't there, I would be like, okay, well, do one no item run there and, do an item run here and whatever. But it's like, well, okay, so since I can't, do everything I want to do all at once, I got to lock in real quick and just like,
exactly.
Can't be messing around. I don't know. I really wish that they had like, I know obviously for I think it is anniversary where they have like red zone as like unlimited attempts or whatever.
Yeah. The red zone
we haven't had that for blue zone yet.
No.
So
10th
10th, yeah, exactly. 10th Eddie, baby. Yeah, I do hope that they actually like do that for part of the celebration at one point. Because I think that would be cool. Obviously, I mean, it makes sense.
I found the team.
Yeah.
It was a double Blue Boys lead for AGL Vegito, right? So I guess I used AGL Vegito, but it was him, Orange Piccolo, the GT duo, Sorta Hope Trunks, and both of the Gogeta Blues, the LRs.
Yeah, see, that is one of those setups, because like his second phase is STR. So it's like if he locks Sword of Hope Trunks in slot 1, you're dead.
So it was just get lucky with the Blue Boys or get to there on turn 4.
Yeah.
And then Gogeta has the guaranteed dodges, or just cheese it with the standby with the GT duo, something like that. I mean, Orange Piccolo shenanigans. There's a reason that I stuck my neck out for Orange Piccolo until Beast Gohan as number 1. So not that it was like a hot take, but
no, he was. Oh, you'd have loved last week's. Last week's.
We were swinging for that.
The general gist is the trash take we talked about last week. Someone said that Orange Piccolo was overrated and was never even top 15. So that was that was a fun
achieved
one.
in getting his take on the show. Then he's just outright lying.
Because that's the thing. Orange Piccolo is still useful even now, like especially because you think like Gogeta on Global leads movie heroes. You can still, like, for some of these events, just throw Piccolo on the team. And, he still does pretty decently well. So,
yeah. He is the GOAT. We do love Orange Piccolo in this
I never went to the Bulma agenda as her as number 1 when she came out. I always stayed true. It's like, yeah, she's great, but can she take away supers and AoE?
Bro, I don't know. It's just so great. I feel like, I don't know. I think this is definitely my superhero fanboy, but man, the fact that he was number 1 for so long and then basically right into Beast just makes me such a happy lad. Oh man. But anyway, I think now that is it for JP. So we can move on to the funny global version. We do have a couple of things to talk about that are in the game. And then we have a couple of things just to at least mention that will be coming out later. To start us off, obviously the talk of the town right now on Global is, of course, the Broly Trio EZA, which just recently dropped on Global. Obviously, this was a pretty highly anticipated EZA because of the shenanigans that this unit can do. I remember even before they got the EZA, people started talking about them on the Twitter timeline again. We're like, low key, they're really good. Put them up there in the ranks. And I was like, where did this come from? But You know, I understand where people are coming from, and obviously now with their EZA, they are certainly a lot better.
Oh, yes.
I've been seeing some very interesting things about these people. Ironically enough, in saying this, I got a DM from my buddy the other day who plays Global, and he just EZA the Rolling Trio, and he's like, "Am I crazy or do they suck?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, you're crazy, bro. There's no way." Or did I understand because of the 7 orbs, right? That's like
he's not getting the 7 orbs. That's definitely
right. Exactly. Rose key drops are not cooking, but I definitely wanted to hear what you guys had to say on this one. So Ningen, as our resident global player, how are we feeling about this one?
Yes, so this ECA is very, very good. I was very impressed. I've been waiting for these guys to drop to be that final missing piece for the Super Bosses team. I think the Super Bosses team on Global is in a really good spot now with this unit having released. And this is the funny thing is I remember we talked about them back when you were saying, like when people started talking about them on the timeline, some people were pushing some agendas for them just because it's like if you run them with an orb changer, then because I think they actually share a decent number of links with LR Bulma. So if you run them on a team, I can't remember which team it is they have. Is it
Power Wishes?
Yeah, that's it. If you run them together, you can consistently get the 7 orbs. And if you get the 7 orbs, they always dodge, so they don't die. So even in their like pre-EZA, you could like get away with using them on the team. But this was the discussion we had back then, is it's like you're getting the 7 orbs, they're dodging, but then they're not doing anything else for the team. Like I did kind of like for a laugh, I think we talked about in the last episode, I think I'd done it just before then. I did a run on the God Goku stage of the Blue Zone, the first stage. I know it's not, you know, that hard, but I did a run with the Super Bosses team that I was planning to use once they got their EZA, but with these guys pre-EZA, and I was still able to do it because I got 7 orbs with them every turn, but they were doing like 1.5 million attack and like not really doing much for the team, not doing a lot of damage. So they were a unit that I never really thought were that great overall in general, but the switch up is real for sure because their EZA is actually incredible. I think they're really, really good. The only downside they have is if you're above certain HP thresholds, they obviously don't create their own orbs. But I think Minato mentioned it back when we were talking about Cell Max. But on the Super Bosses team now, I just run them as a rotation with Physical Goku Black with his Super EZA. Because they do have big bad bosses, obviously because of, you know, Lemo, the big bad boss. And so thanks to Goku Black, like they just always get 7 orbs and they give tons of support to the rotation. One of the craziest things that they do, which I feel really shouldn't be understated whatsoever, is if you get 24 key with them, which is super easy to do because they get loads of extra key per key sphere obtained, and they give extra key depending on the types of orbs that you pick up. They give the entire rotation, well, as long as it's only Super Bosses or Movie Bosses allies, but obviously on a Super Bosses team that is going to be everybody. They give the entire rotation 10% damage reduction, as well as the little bit of extra percentages to like attack and defense that they give. So yeah, if you go for like the physical orbs, which is the thing that buffs them specifically, you can have them hitting like 25 million attack. They get a guaranteed additional super if you've got enough key as well. They like massively raise on their 18 key and then greatly raise on their 12 key. And then obviously if you're picking up, depending on the typings of orbs, you're either giving your allies a big attack buff or a big defensive buff. And then they have the bonus support. As long as you're getting a rainbow orb, it gives the allies extra attack and defense as well. So you can pick up a specific type of orb and a rainbow orb. And they're just giving all of this support. And then, yeah, if you're getting the 7 orbs, like, it's just crazy how much they do. Like, if you run them with an orb changer, like Goku Black, as long as you're consistently getting 7 orbs, they are hitting really hard, providing support to the team in terms of raw numbers for both attack and defense, and giving them damage reduction, all on top of the fact that they can't take damage. So, I mean, yeah, I can't overstate enough, like, just how impressed I am with this EZA, especially considering I just really was not a fan of this unit beforehand. And yeah, and obviously the fact even if you don't get the 7 orbs, they do have some dodge chance built in now, which is 50%, which, I mean, you know, you're gambling on the coin flip, but like I say, running them on that rotation, once you get them set up with Goku Black, because, you know, starting rotations can still be awkward, but once you get them set up with him, I think, like, in the couple of videos I've done since they got their EZA, I haven't missed the 7 orbs with them, like running them together as a rotation with him. So yeah, overall very, very impressed with them and their EZA. So
I like that this is a character that you have to kind of use a little bit of thought when you're using them, right? It's like, do I want to give this type of support or do I want to use that type of support? And I think the Rainbow Orbs really does kind of help, where it's like you're always going to be getting the attack and defense with the key, but like it's like, you know, you never know when you might need the extra attack or the extra defense, especially if you have like a statistic unit like you know, Physical Goku Black. It's like, oh, let's give him extra defense here if we can get some attacker and key spheres. I just think that's fun. They don't really give you a lot of the characters in this game that you have like to think about, like with the amount of orbs that you're getting and stuff like that all the time, or the different typing of orbs, should I say, right? The number is obviously always going to be a thing, but the typing usually isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. We're Dragon Ball fans. What do you mean? We don't think. What? That's crazy. It's always Ooga Booga with us.
Right.
But yeah, no, you are absolutely right, though. It is cool to have like a little bit more of a unique unit like that. But yeah, I think it's awesome that they obviously have their EZA now. It's nice to see that this is just yet another option for super bosses, right? Because obviously, you know, the team definitely I feel like it's so funny, like Broly dropped, you know, for anniversary on JP, and then it's like, man, they just gave him nothing besides, like, I mean, these guys obviously came out to your anniversary, but like I feel like they didn't give him a lot, and as time has gone on, it feels like they've given him a lot of buffs, or at least the team a lot of buffs, which is really nice. So hopefully they continue with that trend. But yeah, I think that these guys are really good too. I've used them for a couple of runs on some difficult events myself. I've had quite a bit of good luck with them as well. So definitely a very, very good unit. But yeah, besides them though, obviously currently on World Tournament as well, or on World Tournament. Well, I just pulled what I was about to say. Currently on Global. The other thing that obviously we have popping right now is obviously the World Tournament for Global, which is, of course, you know, everybody's favorite time. But this World Tournament is special for 2 reasons. One, this World Tournament obviously is giving, hey, there you go, Ningen grinding it right now, baby. You know, you obviously have more stones for Beast, right, with this World Tournament, right? That's just a bunch of free extra stones for the man himself. So that's definitely something to look forward to. And as well, I do believe that with the release of this World Tournament, we are completely caught up to JP in terms of releases, I believe, of units and stuff for the World Tournament. Ningen, I think you would know that best, so you can correct me if I'm wrong on that for sure. But I believe that we are now caught up. It's not the same World Tournament number, and I think that that's more so just because obviously Global came out 6 months after JP.
yeah,
but
Global skipped some at the start, I think. But
yeah, we skipped a couple of them. So like I think JP, like the last one was like 53, and I think this one's 51.
51, yeah.
Yeah, something like that for JP. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah. So World Tournament now caught up on Global. Funny enough, we may as well just mention it because somebody in the chat actually did point it out. Thank you for reminding me, Weeble Class. The Baton Battle is also caught up. Granted, that was like kind of a thing before, but yes, they literally added the new Baton Battle set that was just added to JP in the recent Global Data download as well. So even that is now matched up. So that's some good stuff towards the sync, baby. You love to see it, that they're actually making some strides in the right direction. I know, isn't that crazy? Can you believe it? They're actually
doing all these things with all these random modes. In the meantime, multiple like units and banners are still just up in the air.
Yep, exactly.
Who wants to sell Max UI Goku when we can have World Tournament?
Exactly.
Know,
you don't want the new Kill and Khalifa
in the middle of an anniversary. Let's go.
That happened to JP during the 8-year.
Yeah, because it was the delay because of the fan meetup thing, wasn't it, or something? Yeah.
And that was the super competitive one too, because Piccolo had just gotten his EZA, and that was a really good unit.
Yeah. I kind of forgot about that, honestly.
It's so weird though as well, because
was a crazy one.
It's not something that happens very often, but like we didn't find out about the World Tournament being like starting today until the data download on Wednesday, which I think in terms of some of the recent celebrations and stuff where there's been a World Tournament is like the shortest notice that we've had of a world tournament in quite some time, because it was literally like data download, like going by UK time, it's like data download on Wednesday morning. That was like, yeah, world tournament on Friday, by the way. So it's like, oh, okay, well.
Is that thing with the 500-day countdown still on the Global Dokkan info?
The 500-day countdown.
There was some world tournament asset in there that had like 500 days.
That was this. Yeah, that was for this one.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, that was for that.
I think that was that was the previous world tournament where it was like they put the stuff in the data like way ahead of time, and then we didn't get that world tournament until it wasn't even that long ago. I swear it was only like 3 weeks ago or something. The last world tournament was
it wasn't that long ago. Which is kind of funny. I feel like this is a pretty quick turnaround for like between world tournaments. I feel like it's obviously usually not that quick. I don't know if this is the quickest, but
I feel like I was just watching a Ningen subathon like last week.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I decided that with this one, it was such short notice, and it's obviously right in the middle of the anniversary. I was like, I'm just not going to do one of those this time. We're just going to chill. So I'm not grinding anywhere near as crazy as I as I would be normally. So
I'm just 23 million to stop now. I just get the tickets. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
The Kais, it might not be responsible, but just can't be asked.
That's the thing. I'll still do some streams across the weekend. I did a couple of hours earlier this afternoon, but like, yeah, it's one of those things. I only need one more copy of Pilaf to rainbow him, because I didn't go super hard in the last couple anyway and kept getting knocked off of the #1 spot. And it's one of those things where it's like, do I really want to grind this for another like 5 hours only to, with the way it works in UK time, the world tournament ends at 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday. So it's like, I'm going to go to bed at some point on Sunday night, which means whoever's at #2, if I do manage to snatch the #1 spot back, then has like 6 hours to play it while I'm asleep. So a lot of the time, I'll just get to a certain landmark. Like if I can get myself into the top 1,000 or top 2,000 or something like that, I just get to that point, and then it's like, yeah, okay, I'm just happy with this now. So I'll get my one copy of Pilaf, because you only have to be in the top 150 of your local to get the one copy, and then they'll be rainbowed. Not that I even really use them anymore anyway. So yeah, definitely not going crazy this time. So
yeah, it is nice to see though. Again, I think definitely the big benefit of this one dropping it so quickly is not only to catch up, but obviously the stones.
Yeah, that is the one good thing, because if your account rank is high enough, like even the world tournaments where I actually grind, like to get into like a decent ranking, like again, I never really shoot for anything higher than like top 1,000 overall or something like that, but like even with constantly refreshing my stamina across the weekend, I still always end up with more stones than I started with. So for people who, if you just want to do those missions, get like the 30 million points to get all the Kais and all that kind of stuff, as long as you've got a decent amount of stamina pool to work from, so you're not having to refresh a whole bunch of times, you do end up with a decent amount of stones and items, Kais. I do like the fact that ever since they started doing the World Tournament EZAs, they give you 2 copies of the cards that are getting their EZAs, aside from the DB Saga one for some reason. They give you all the non-DB Saga ones. So if you don't have the Int Forearm TN, who's got his EZA with this World Tournament, then tough. You don't get any copies of him.
No.
But you get the AGL Vegito, Int Gohan, and the Physical Chi-Chi. You can get 2 copies of them by doing the missions. I didn't bring up the images for them, because I think none of them are super worth talking about. But like the AGL Vegito is kind of okay. I did a showcase video for him earlier today. He's not bad. He's got like 70% dodge in slot 1, buffs the rotation when he super attacks. If you get a double super, I had him double super like multiple times, which means he gives everybody on the rotation like 60% extra attack. So it was like, even on turn 1, I think I had like the 8-year GT duo in slot 2, and they did like a 14 million attack stat as their first super of the entire run, because he double supered in slot 1, which is kind of crazy. The only downside is he's on very few 200% leads, and he needs Martian Buu Saga allies. And with all the buffs we got from Golden Week, he doesn't really fit on like the optimal build for a Buu Saga team.
Yeah.
And then Chi-Chi's just stuck on dead teams and needs to be run with a Goku. The Int Youth Gohan, I need to try him out for a video. He's good for support on the Android/Cell Saga team, but that's basically it. And that team's kind of dead at the moment as well. So nothing too exciting in terms of the cards for this one. The Kale and Cauliflower Awakenings are fairly decent. The Caulifla is useful because obviously on that Universe 6 team, there's not enough Cauliflas, because obviously with Kale being the leader, one of the big problems with that team is that STR Kale, who got her EZA, is quite good, but she needs a Caulifla to be around. And there's just not enough Cauliflas on that team until we get like a Dokkan Fest one, which I imagine will be something we probably will get soon. So she could be pretty decent, but unfortunately you don't get any extra copies of these guys either. So if you don't have these guys and you want them, now that they've got their awakening, you have to summon on the World Tournament guaranteed SSR banner. So funnily enough, the only one of the two I actually needed copies of is Kale. And when I was ending the World Tournament stream that I did earlier, I did a multi on the World Tournament ticket banner and pulled 3 Cauliflas in the 7-unit multi when I don't need her, I need Kale. So that's always nice.
I have a last World Tournament, I managed to be dodging physical Kami for the longest time, but he finally made his way to the box last World Tournament.
Nice.
It's kind of unrelated, but we were talking about the ticket multis. I remember doing my summons on stream for that one, and I was saying like, all right, come on, give me Kale. Like that was the only character that I really needed. No luck. This is the best mode in the game, you know. I put it in the chat, but I went down to suit before you guys started talking about it. I put it on.
Yep. We're all here for this. It's like that meme with like the, you know, was it My Sister's Wedding, and it's the guy in like casual clothes.
Yeah,
it's like Dokkan World Tournament, and the guy's in a suit.
You know what's crazy? I actually saw on the Twitter timeline, yo, shout out to this man, actual real one, and not to mention whoever is this individual's wife, also the real one. On Twitter, they were like, yeah, currently on a cruise for my 10th wedding anniversary, and I'm grinding the World Tournament.
That's
I was
insane.
like, what? I was like, that's wild.
He's in the doghouse for sure. He's done.
But no, the comment, because Truth commented on it, was like, bro, make sure this is okay with your wife. And the guy was like, nah, the wife bought like a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot because she knew he was worried about getting beast. I was like, couple goals right there. That's crazy. Actual real one right there. So shout out to them. And
that's why they're celebrating 10 years.
Oh,
that's what I thought too. I was like, all right, well, by that point, y'all know each other well enough to know what's going down. Oh man, that's too funny. But anyhow, yes, for sure, World Tournament on Global, you gotta love it. Very, very cool. Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of the other things that we have coming up on Global, and then we'll actually be getting to the end segments here. I will say I did forget to mention this, unfortunately, in the beginning of the podcast, but I did want to mention, I know I've been seeing a couple of gifted subs and super chats and whatnot come in throughout the stream, so thank you guys for that. We really appreciate it. As per usual, we just want to give you a reminder that we are not ignoring you. Don't worry, we are saving all of the super chats and the gifted subs and shout outs and everything like that for the end of the stream, so stick around for that, and don't worry, we will read all of your comments and all that then. But in terms of what we got still coming out for Global, obviously we have the EZA for Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku and Blue Evolution Vegeta coming out. I believe that is, if the Dokkan Wiki would load the date for me. It's not loading the date for me. Well, either way, it's coming out on Monday.
It's for 2 days on the.
Yeah, it's like Monday morning for me. I think it's
days.
late Sunday evening if you're US. So
I got you. I think it might load for me. I'll see.
Yeah, it is definitely a very exciting EZA. I am definitely looking forward to see. Yeah, for me it's the 22nd at 1:30 a.m.
Yeah, yeah, it's like 7:30
2 days,
a.m.
10 hours.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. People are obviously pretty excited for Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken and a Blue Evo because they are a fantastic unit. And obviously this is just yet another unit for the superheroes team, because obviously you know, they're just another solid option for the team. They work really well with the units on there. And I gotta be honest, I know we'll talk about these guys, and Ningen will, you know, have your thoughts when they come out on Global for next week's episode. But Vill, I want to know what you hear about what you think about this. I honestly feel like these guys with this EZA are better now than when they came out. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they weren't self-sufficient when they came out. They did like the rainbow orb changing was a huge problem for them, and the best partner that like kind of came around was honestly just God Goku, the tech one, because of his orb changing and slot 1 capabilities. But yeah, now this guy, I still use this character in like a lot of the difficult content now. I think the Goku and Frieza stage might be like a bit of their breaking point, just because of if they got locked, because I used them in my first run. They got locked at slot 1. They were taking 500k on a normal from 17. So I was like, okay, maybe this just isn't their stage. But the superheroes team, another massive buff. And there's a reason that, especially like a lot of the JP crowd is talking about why this team is so good, especially with Beast Gohan around. This is one of the reasons why. Because this is a character that's extremely versatile. They have offensive options. They have defensive options on their active skill when the HP gets low. They have debuffing utility with lowering attack on both the 18 key and the 12 key, which they do a lot of, by the way. Like, there's times where you're going to be doing 4 to 5 supers, all lowering attack, the rainbow key sphere changing, and like there's just so many rainbow orb changers on that team really nowadays. And this team is just this is a nice 5th to 6th unit that you can run on this team alongside Beast Gohan, alongside Gogeta Blue, alongside the 6-year EZAs. The Tournament of Power link set's going to work very well, because I know a lot of you probably have all 3 of the 6 or 2 of the 6 years rainbowed, and then this guy with a couple dupes in him. I would imagine most of you do. And all in all, just for the Universal Survival Saga team, there's so many teams that benefit from this character being around, and I'm a big fan. I mean, like I said, I would probably take them off the team if I had Tech UI Goku, but this is a unit that I 100% would recommend using.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel literally the exact same. Yeah, they're really, really good. And honestly, like, for me too, this is a unit that I've always really liked. I think that they're just so cool, right? Like, and not to mention, funny animation, side tangent. Like, I always thought that these guys' animations aged extremely well.
Yeah.
They still look really good to this day, in my opinion. And I always just thought that they were really cool, right? I don't know. I just think Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken and Blue Evolution, like the duo. I mean, any card where you have Vegeta and Goku fighting together, I think is always pretty cool. But this one specifically, like this moment for the Tournament of Power, is just so much fun. So I'm glad to see them kind of come back into their former glory. It's been a lot of fun using them again. And like you said, seeing them just whip out like 4 or 5 supers at once, it's just like, it's ridiculous.
This is the first unit I ever bought stones for on JP.
Oh, wow.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Because I started around year 5, like really getting into the game, so...
The only thing I remember about when these guys came out is I think it was like both Truth and Nano both had like massive shafts on actually pulling them, and then they came out.
This is an iconic,
and it's like they weren't a unit that I was even necessarily super hyped to summon for, and then I pulled them like in like 3 multis or something. But like I've always really liked this unit. I feel like they aged better than people give them credit for. Like, not to suggest that like they're good now, like before their EZA, but I feel like they were still useful way past the point where people were not really talking about them anymore. I remember back when like some of the Super Battle Road stages were still hard, and we were still getting like when we were getting the 10 batches of stages in a row. I remember using these guys on ones like Realm of Gods, Extreme Super Battle Road and stuff like that, because they get all those additionals, they lower attack on all of their additional supers. So they're like really, really useful for Super Battle Road or any events where you can lower attack. And that is one thing to point out as well. I know there's a lot of people on Global, even with the release of like Broly and Gogeta, there's people who are still struggling with the Kid Buu stage because of just how much of an absolute menace that guy is. And these guys just absolutely destroy him. Like, they have type advantage, they do loads of damage, and all of their super attacks lower his attack. So yeah, they are very, very effective against Kid Buu if you're still struggling to beat him.
Does the 12 key get nullified by Kid Buu?
I don't think so. I'd have to double check, because if it does, then whoever told me that they were amazing against him would be wrong.
Is there? Yeah, there's an icon on the Dokkan info. It's like a purple circle. So I don't know if that.
That one I don't think is. Let me double check. I've got the game up here. Okay. Let me get out of the tournament run. But yeah, they are a unit that I'm very, very much looking forward to their EZA. It's one of those things, you've mentioned it before, Theo, and we talked about you guys talked about it on your previous show, but like, it's the whole thing of like what makes a good EZA, right? And they have that one big thing, like VILLUHFY mentioned, right? Like when you asked about when they first came out, is they were not self-sufficient, right? They needed rainbow orbs, but at the time they didn't really have a very good partner to create those rainbow orbs for them. So then when they gave them an EZA, they just made them a rainbow orb changer. And that solves like the biggest issue that they have with their kit. So yeah, and I've just got their super attacks up here. Their 12 key super isn't a unarmed. So yeah, all of their supers do damage to Kid Buu and they all lower attack. So very, very good against him. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I've got them link level 10 ready to go. I've got the spare SA5 copy from all the random extra copies that I've pulled. So I am very much ready for them to get their EZA on Monday. The only thing I'm thinking at the moment though is until the Universe 6, like till we get the rest of the EZAs, like the UI Goku and Blue Evolution Vegeta and stuff like that, is what is their best team like on global at the moment. Because before we get, like, because we don't have Beast yet, so we don't have the fully updated superheroes team. Because of course Gogeta leads movie heroes, which they're not on. And yeah, we don't have the Universe 6 EZAs, so the Universe Survival Saga, all reps of Universe 7, whichever way you want to do it, is not like buffed up yet. These guys are kind of like the first. Well, UI Goku, I guess, in the countdown was like the first step. But yeah, these guys are like another step towards that team being really, really good. But the rest of the team's kind of like not ready yet.
Yeah.
I see two categories that really stick out. It's Power Beyond Super Saiyan and then Bond of Parent Child, I think would be their best.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to try them out. But then, of course, you know, we'll have Beast not long after them. So
yeah, that'll be like a week where that pop will be there because you'll get Gohan Beast and then obviously the MUI and the Blue Evo will drop. So yeah, it won't have to wait too long.
It was also the 6-year EZAs. Those are the ones where their 12 keys get nullified.
Right. It's crazy because, like, it's funny. I talked about it in one of the videos that I did because I tried out, like, Broly and Gogeta against Kid Buu. And it's so funny because Global, I think I saw one of the takes about it, but it's not one of the ones we picked, but it's kind of like an interesting topic. But because the Majin Buu Saga Red Zone, it came out on JP after the anniversary. So it's post-anniversary content, technically, which means it's kind of, you know, it's not designed so that the anniversary units are just going to absolutely dump all over it because it comes out, it came out after them. So it's supposed to be slightly harder. And I've seen a lot of people that have been surprised or like just even disappointed that like they've pulled Broly and Gogeta, but you can't just go in and just destroy Kid Buu instantly with them because both of them, their 12 key supers are unarmed super attacks, so they get nullified. So like Broly and Gogeta both do loads of additional supers, but they don't do any damage, and they keep buffing Kid Buu's attack power. And yeah, like Movie Heroes, I think we talked about this on the last episode, like Movie Heroes is a team that, whilst being very good, has some shaky units when it comes to Kid Buu specifically. So yeah, it's like the anniversary units, their teams don't just instantly go in and destroy Kid Buu because he is like post-anniversary content. But yeah, these guys really, really good against him. So if you are still struggling, yeah, these guys will be awesome for that fight. So very much looking forward to their EZA come Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be very exciting. I know I have definitely been looking forward to using them on global as well. Dude, it's so funny playing JP because every time I'm like, oh man, all right, let me hop into some of these global events and do it on my global account. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this unit doesn't have an EZA yet. Dang it. So it'll be so nice when everything is finally synced up as well for all that stuff. So you can finally just have it at the same time. But speaking of Gohan Beast himself, and all of the anniversary shenanigans, the last thing we have to discuss for global is that next week will be the part 2 banners. Obviously, on the global title screen right now, we already have the superhero title screen. It's kind of funny that, you know, Dokkan loves to do this thing where they don't drop the banners when the celebration that the banners are a part of actually starts, you know, for part 1 2 days afterward, and then for this it's like 10 or 11 days afterward or something ridiculous like that, where you've already like half the time beaten all the content, and by the time you get the unit, I don't know, Dokkan's a little bit of a silly little game, you know. But regardless, obviously people are very, very excited for these units. Obviously, you know, highly anticipated, of course, the big boy, the Beast himself. And not to mention, obviously, even the Gammas I've still seen some people talking about, despite definitely Gohan being the unit that people are the most excited for. And obviously, this has been definitely the most polarizing anniversary in terms of people being like, yeah, you need to save for part 2. And, you know, that whole discussion has been very interesting to see the community go through now that, you know, obviously it's a little bit different because, of course, you know, we didn't know how good Gohan was going to be, and we didn't know for sure, right? It was kind of, it was like pretty much there, but, you know, again, Rose incident, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt. You know, the Beast would be part 2. So now that obviously Global has that bit of foresight, it's been a very interesting, you know, discourse in the community, seeing people say that obviously, right, like you just shouldn't summon it all on part 1. You should only save for part 2, or, you know, like you should still summon for Broly and Gogeta because they're still good, and everything revolving around that. So it has been very interesting. Obviously, we will talk more about these 2 units once they actually release on Global. Trust me, I know we'll be talking about them because, you know, let's, you know, be talking about Beast. This will be our last opportunity to, you know, go crazy about him on the podcast. So I'm definitely going to take it when that episode comes, and obviously when Ningen is pulling him. But Vil, I know obviously for that episode, you won't be there. So do you have any other quick thoughts about this before we move on to our final section real quick?
I mean, it's like this, very similar to what part 1 was with the Broly banner, right? The Beast banner essentially is their own team. Like you can just make a team with like 4 of the 5 best units in the game on it, right? Maybe 3, because it's who is it? It's Beast and then the 6-year EZAs, right? Like the feeling of the 6-year EZAs, if you don't have them, should be like similar to what you'd feel for pulling Beast with how good they are. But the only issue is doing the Extreme Z battle, but you know that's another discussion. But like that's a character that's going to be extremely good. And then the Gammas banner, I mean, like for a featured lineup of a Carnival banner, it's assuming they don't change it, which is 99% they won't. The Gammas themselves, Bulma, who's a good scoop, Future Gohan, and then Kai Goku alongside who's it, Bird Goku as well. Like 5 decent LRs. I know Bird Goku's kind of fallen off, but same thing.
Their banner is way better than Gogeta's.
Right, and it's
yeah.
And like the Gammas being that solid support for the superheroes team, as well as like a pure 200, even though you'd definitely be incentivized to run like a double Beast Gohan. But what you could do if you have them both, you just run pure superheroes. You run the Gammas as a lead, you run Gohan, and then you just bring another Beast if you want. It's just extra stats, right? But very good. These are like, you know, I'm kind of like, I feel like I've said it until I'm blue in the face at this point with how many times I've said, like, you know, especially for people in the comments, like, when is part 2? Should I summon for part 2? I'm like, yes, please. Just, you can save for part 2 if you want. Beast Gohan, I don't know when he's coming out yet. We don't have the official date. Like, I wish I could tell you, but I can't. I get that comment every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, solid stuff. I mean, this is what we've all been waiting for. This is what, especially like, you know, Theo, you could definitely vouch as a JP player, what we've been telling you to save for, you know, 5 months at this point. This is what you want. This is the character that you're going to be using headlining into this difficult content coming up. And he's going to be someone that's worth everything. Like, he's worth every stone that you have to spend to get him.
Well, there you go.
100% agree. Funny enough, I just I got him like 55 during the anniversary, and I saved enough coins to rainbow him outright when he just came back on Tanabata. So he's worth it.
Yeah, and at 55%, like I've managed to no item the whole game with him. Not that it's like the biggest accomplishment ever, but like it just you don't need to dupe chase with this character.
No, you don't. He like Gohan, like literally my top 2 transformations in Dragon Ball are Beast and Super Saiyan 3. So like I'm, you know, like ride or die. So I did it more for the culture, to be honest with you. But like I 100% agree with you, where it's like this is one unit where like it makes me so happy, honestly, the way that they handled him. Not only just because he's so good, but he is still disgusting even at 55%. Like this is a unit that will just only get better, you know, with dupes, but you don't necessarily need them, right? It's not one of these characters that you look at and you're like, yeah, they'd be a lot better if you pulled a, you know, a second copy of them.
Yeah.
Type of deal. No. You know, this is a character that you do not need dupes in whatsoever, right? If you have the 55% beast on one turn and your rainbow friend on the other, you'll be chilling. I promise you, you'll be fine. You will definitely be cooking any event that comes your way. So, and he's obviously still good even on the current JP content. You know, I've been using him for like literally everything. You know, so like why not, right? So definitely highly recommend summoning for Gohan Beast. Just like Vil said, like this guy is worth every single stone that you can put into it. And just like I've been mentioning, like every single episode at this point, basically, keep in mind we still have that 77 character multi coming up on global as well. So if you don't end up pulling Beast from your stones, I would definitely recommend using that multi on him. That's how I got him, actually. I didn't even get him with stones. So definitely recommend throwing that on the Beast if you do not end up pulling him through your Dragon Stones. But with that being said, that is it for current global content. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our last two segments of the podcast, but it's time for everybody's favorite segment, the Trash Takes segment. That is right. Okay. So this week, we had our guest Vil pick the trash take, and I think that this is going to be a pretty good one for you. So this take reads: the 7th anniversary / Omatsu, quote, ruined, end quote, this game. People were saying it was the, quote, 200% meta, end quote, but now people are finally understanding how detrimental it has been for the fun and longevity of the game. Oh boy. So this is certainly a take. If Bringer Down wants to come to the stage and say a couple words into the mic, feel free. We'll read it into the we'll read it out here. But as per usual, we'll kind of give some of our thoughts before we put up the poll, just to kind of make sure that everybody has their opinion solid. So Vil, as our guest and the one who picked this take, how are we feeling about this one?
Well, reading the chat, it looks like I picked a good one, but I think like what you could say about this, like the end bit, it's like sure, maybe I just don't know where you could say it's like detrimental. That's where it's like, because I guess like the one thing that you could say is like leads that don't have it, like they either need to be put up to 180%, or if you're 170, or God forbid, you have a 130 in your stats still, it's tricky, right? And you really aren't going to be seeing much usage as a leader anymore. And a lot of characters that might have had value are going to go down because of their leader skill, right? You think about a unit like STR Super Vegeta, right? It's like, cool, he's a pure Saiyan lead, but he's not a 200% lead. And then obviously his EZA is what he is, but ruined the game is certainly not a word I would use for this. It was just a very dramatic power creep, and we're seeing that kind of right now as well with someone like Jiren hitting 80 million attack stats and EZAs just hitting 20 million for free. It's interesting. I think it's just an interesting way of phrasing that the 7th anniversary was a game ruiner, when I thought it really kind of just brought a whole new aspect of the game to the table and extended the longevity with the addition of new types of leader skills.
Absolutely. Ningen?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one for sure. I mean, to be honest, when I first read it, I was confused about what they meant specifically, but because it's saying people were saying it was the 200% meta, but now people are finally understanding how detrimental it has been for the fun and longevity of the game. I'm not sure. I'd read that as people were saying it was the 200% meta that was bad, but now they've realized it's something else. But I think it is referring to the 200% meta, right? Which is interesting because like we've had jumps in leader skill percentages before. I mean, we basically went from 70% to 120, which is almost double, right? I mean, I guess technically there was the 100% ones in the middle who gave no key, so you could kind of make the team that was like one of one and one of the other. But yeah, we moved up to full 120%, then we went up to categories and we had like 170. I don't know, I think it's like the main thing that people I see or have seen in the past, people complaining about, especially with like the shift when it came to the 7th anniversary like meta stuff, is because of the red zone and how not only was the red zone very difficult, like on release, at least on JP, like you basically needed to have the anniversary LRs and their teams to beat like Broly specifically. Omega was not as bad, and then of course, as always happens for global, it's kind of a weirder, we look at it through like a different lens, because by the time the anniversary comes to global's already got like the Saiyan Day unit, the Golden Week units, like stuff that wasn't out on JP when the anniversary first came out. So by the time the anniversary came to Global already had like 4 200% leaders. So it was one of those things where it wasn't quite like as much of a culture shock, I guess, for the meta change. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those, I guess it's hard to see the perspective from, I guess, other angles, because obviously for me, being a creator and like a bit of a whale, like I don't go all out, like I'm not rainbowing units on day one and stuff like that, but like I've never found any of that content like difficult enough that it like ruins the game. I think it's generally agreed that the red zone on release invalidated like a large percentage of the units in the game, but I mean, I guess it just depends, right? Like power creep gonna be power creep, I guess. Things like Super Battle Road and stuff like that are still around for older units and units that stun and seal and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've gotten to a point now, I would say, where the most difficult events, you think about bosses like Kid Buu, some of the harder hitting, like how hard Blue Gogeta and Beast Gohan are going to be hitting when we get the final stages of the Blue Zone. Like with how hard some of the bosses hit now, I would say the more difficult events feel more difficult than the Red Zone around the time of its release. But for me, that is, like I said, coming from that lens of like a global player, because I had all the 200% leads that were available before the anniversary when the anniversary came out. So I remember like, you know, just going into Broly and using like, you know, the Goku and Gohan team or Martian Vegeta and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get that like exact frame of reference for like power creep and stuff like that. But I do think one thing that we talk about a lot when it comes to these takes, because we always say we focus on like some of the wording specifically, is we've mentioned it before, but it's so funny how much like flack Omatsu gets as like the guy who is the like he's the public face. He's like the public face of Dokkan. So like whenever something bad happens, it's always like everyone going crazy that it's like his fault, when, you know, it's not one of those things. He's not like the be all and end all, he makes all of the decisions in the game kind of thing. Because I know one of the takes that we didn't pick was like the game would be in a better place if Koto had stayed the head producer for Global. But like realistically, nothing would be different. It would just be her in the Dokkan Now videos and not him. But like realistically, the decisions that were made and stuff wouldn't be different. Like she still works for the global team. She's just not like the face of Global Dokkan anymore, right? So I mean, we've said it many times in the episodes before. It's because he's the public face, right? So he's the one. He gets all of the hate, like when all these changes get made and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see if Bringer had said anything extra in the chat, because I think he said something about the take came from Reddit.
he mentioned that this take came from Reddit. So thankfully, this is not his own trash take. So our boy is in the clear on this one. I was going to say, Bringer's, I know I've seen him around in the community too. So I was like, no, this can't be. In terms of this, right? So it's kind of weird, because I agree with like what both you said, especially with Vil said with it's like it's so weird, because I also thought that it's like, oh, it's a brand new, like, you know, like not take on the game, but like kind of like a new little refresh that makes the game more fun and interesting. But it's kind of interesting that people seem to almost like have thought the opposite when it came to that. I suppose that is also kind of the nature of gacha games, unfortunately, where it's just like, I mean, at some point, every game is going to introduce a power creep that makes the units that you already have irrelevant to some regard. That's just how gacha games work, because gacha games want to make money. So, you know, unfortunately, that will just always be the case. That's the nature of having a game based around, let's face it, gambling. But right, when it comes down to it, I think that part of the Omatsu part, we always like to break these takes down, right? Very silly. In terms of the Omatsu bit, right? Obviously, just like Ningen said, it's just because it's the face of the company. It's just like how, you know, like everybody blames, you know, like Elon or like what's his name, Jeff, or like Jeff Bezos, right? Or like something like that, right? Like it's just the face of the company, you know what I mean? Where you know, because they're the one that everybody sees and they like represent the company, everybody pins the blame on them.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's necessarily like Omatsu. I think that part of this take is definitely a little silly. I think that the 200% meta has honestly been fine for the game. I mean, the thing that I was going to point out is that like maybe it's just because unfortunately like this is maybe a little bit too much of a blanket statement to say, but it does feel like people are a little bit more toxic nowadays. Where in the regard of like, I mean, I feel like it's not too different. Sure, there is definitely a little bit of a difference because maybe the power creep is greater, but I feel like it's not so much different from when the 70% leaders jump to 120 or, when the 120 leads jump to like 170, right? Where it's just the change of the game to be able to make you summon for new characters, right? Again, it all comes down to the, like aspect of the fact that you're gambling for the characters to try and get you to summon for the new stuff that's going to be able to beat this harder content. I think it's just kind of the nature of the game. I don't really think that it has been detrimental for the fun and the longevity as like is kind of the main point of this, because then that would also say that every time that there has been a meta shift, that would also be the case, right? That the difficult content has made the game less fun. I think it kind of just depends on your perspective on how you view the way that the game handles difficult content, maybe. Because fun is obviously pretty subjective. Whether you have fun with something is very different compared to somebody else, but longevity wise, I feel like that is more like, I don't want to say it's not like 100% objective, I guess, but I feel like saying that the game will suffer because the 200% units are in the game in terms of how long the game will last, I think is also not really fair to say, because the game has still lasted this long after that has happened, and it's clear that Dokkan's not going anywhere because they make lots and lots of money. So
Also, I have something to kind of add to that, what you've been talking about. Has like stats going up, which is essentially all the 200% lead is doing, is like in the grand scheme of things, right? The core gameplay loop like didn't change, right? It just means that the bosses have to scale with the units, and the only real big negative effect of that is like you said, the incentive to summon. But the thing with Red Zone Broly and like all these other events is like they don't go away. It's not like you need to clear them before the anniversary goes away. And like that can be a hard thing to kind of say. It's like, yeah, then I might have to wait. But like sometimes like if that's just how it goes, then it's like it's not like the game is ruined because you can't beat Broly day one.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you on that. I feel like that's just more maybe like a frustrating type of thing. I mean, I didn't even beat I didn't have Broly either until Tanabata for JP, and I like didn't beat the missions for the blue zone and the red zone for like the super bosses and the movie bosses missions.
And the extreme class ones.
Yep. I was waiting for that big bad Broly to come into the box. So, I feel like that might also be a case of, we've had a couple of takes on the podcast where we say, man, this kind of feels like that this person didn't pull the unit. This kind of feels like another take like that to me, where it's like, well, this person didn't get the 200% units, and they're frustrated about that, and so they're kind of like quote unquote lashing out about it, where instead they can't look at it critically and objectively even without the 200% units, and look at it and say, okay, this is how the game is, even though I don't have them, I can take a more objective stance on that. Again, that's just a little bit of tinfoil hat on my part, I suppose. But either way, though, yeah, I think that's about it. Ningen, what are we looking at for the poll?
Let's see. We are. Oh, it's pretty one-sided actually, all things considered. So it is. Going to end the poll there. It is a L take 83% versus W 16%. YouTube, of course, doesn't like to round up, so there's always a 1% margin of error. But yeah, very one-sided towards L take. I mean, I think, like you said, when we break down some of the way it's worded and stuff, like, yeah, saying it's detrimental to the longevity of the game when it's gone on for almost 3 full years since that 7th anniversary, and we've had multiple celebrations that have been like, the highest. Wasn't it one of the I'm trying to remember whether it was Worldwide or Golden Week. Like one of the ones in the last couple of years was like the highest earning one. I think it was when people were trying to talk down on the 23rd World Tournament, like the Goku and Piccolo as the picks for Golden Week of last year. But then it was like the highest earning Golden Week of the last like 3 years in a row or something. So like, yeah, in terms of like detrimental to the longevity of the game, I would say that that's obviously like provably incorrect because the game just goes from strength to strength. But I suppose it's just one of those things where power creep will always be one of those awkward sort of topics because it's like that's how gacha games work to get you to summon more. So as the player, you want the units that you've already got to still be good in all the events, but they want them to not be good enough anymore, so you summon for the new units. So it's but yeah, I think we're in a decent enough place. Like again, speaking from the global standpoint, you know, I've done various different stages, like all the blue zone stages. I try and do some of my videos, like things when these events come out, of like beating them without using like Broly and Gogeta all the time for people who didn't necessarily pull the brand new anniversary headlining units. And like you're still able to do these stages that are coming out at the moment on global with the units that we already had in the game. Obviously, we'll see how it goes when we get Beast and the Blue Gogeta stages. But yeah, I think the game's in a fairly decent spot at the moment. Obviously, we talked about how crazy some of those, like the the Frieza and Goku, like Blue Zone stages. But at least where JP is, where Global is right now, I feel like the power creep hasn't been too crazy in terms of event difficulty. Because that's the thing, it's fun to see crazy power creep, like VILLUHFY mentioned, like you see Jiren coming out and hitting like a 70 million attack stat, which is always kind of fun to see those like bigger numbers. The scary part is then when it comes to like bosses will come out and that's the only way you can damage them is when units are doing attacks like that. That's when it becomes scary for the players because there's few characters in the game that can do that unless you're pulling all of the new characters that are releasing. So, but yeah, overall, L take 83% from the chat. So thanks to everybody who took part in the poll.
Absolutely. And remember, if you would like to participate in future polls and future trash takes, don't forget to obviously be here live for the podcast episode and follow us on twitter.com because we always post these every single Wednesday for you to send us your trash takes that we can take a look at on the episode. So, with all that being said, thank you, Vil, for picking our take for this week. It's always good to see. Yeah, of course. It's always good. We always like to let the guest pick because it always, it's a little bit more interesting because obviously it's always just one of us picking.
One quick thing about it though. Bringer didn't say who posted it on Reddit, so it's his take.
Oh shit!
He didn't mention that,
That's crazy. Sorry, Bringer.
He just said it was from Reddit to cover.
That's true. He could have posted.
That's true. It was from Reddit, but he posted it. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, anyway, with that being said, of course, now it's time for our last segment of the podcast, which is, of course, reading out the super chats and giving y'all the shout outs for the channel memberships and whatnot. So, Ningen, take it away.
Okay, so yeah, shout out to everybody for helping to support the podcast. We do appreciate you all very much. We started off the stream with Raldo gifting 5 memberships to the channel, so I appreciate you. We have Weeb of Class with the $10 super chat. He says, what is a super attack nullification or counter you would like to see in Dokkan? Continuing the trend from last week, I want a Super Saiyan 2 Goku from the Kale and Caulifla fight that nullifies by going Super Saiyan 3. Oh, that's interesting. I know Theo is a fellow Super Saiyan 3 enjoyer. But yeah, so what kind of super attack nullification or counter would you like to see?
I've got one right away.
Okay.
I've always wanted this. A Broly that just face tanks a Kamehameha.
Yes.
You know, where the dust settles.
That's true.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah, you just have like the cut in of his face, and then you'd have like the explosion effect, and then he just like walks out of it, like towards the screen. That'd be great.
Yeah, what was that supposed to be?
Yeah. What was that? Yeah.
Proper taking
funny enough, we're just watching clips of Broly. Yeah, proper taking Broly. That would be awesome. Mr. Baby was the guest last week, and we were just talking about gassing up Broly on that episode, so that would be perfect to have for that. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because you really have to think like when were moments when attacks were obviously like kind of nullified in Dragon Ball.
Another cool one, I think, because no one does a Goku have this already? I can't remember. I'm sure, is it part of an animation, or am I just misremembering? But the
which one?
The Super Saiyan Goku, where he gets Frieza to like beam him in the face, and he basically just like it knocks his head back, and then he just like looks.
Is it a support
again.
memory?
Like, yeah, that would be awesome as like a Super Saiyan Goku, like super attack nullification. That'd be great.
Don't think that's in that support memory.
No, that's the speech, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if I have seen it in anything, but yeah, that would be a cool super attack nullification for sure.
I know my pick. Okay. I want one where, you know how when Cell first goes to perfect and then all the Z fighters are trying to beat him up and he's just standing there like, That is what I want. I don't know how that would work because stinky sprites would have to be all over the screen, which might look a little gross. But,
5 of those. No, thank you, bro.
I would be throwing up everywhere. But
take it back.
Take it back. Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be cool in some regard to have that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Also, I think one would be cool. I know it's part of his like super attack animation for the free-to-play LR Vegito Blue, but like the Vegito Blue where like the enemy rushes towards you and then he just does like the Spirit Sword and they run straight into it. Like that would be cool as a super attack counter.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But yeah, definitely some interesting options there. So shout out to Weeb of Class for that one. We have a super chat from JC Gamer for $5. Am I the only one that feels like the Dokkan community overreacted with the Broly Trio EZA timing? Also, Battlefield medals are the real issue for Global. Yeah, that's too... yeah, the Broly Trio EZA, like, it seemed based on when the EZAs came out during the 8th anniversary for Global, and then when how many days it was since, like, the start of the celebration, the Broly Trio EZA came out on JP. It seems like they came out on Global, like, a few days late, but... I mean, it's really not that huge of a deal. I think the biggest problem is something that we talk about all the time. I talk about on my channel all the time, is the way that Dokkan releases content, where we get nothing for like 6 days and then they'll drop like 10 things, where it would make a bit more sense to like space things out a little bit. Because I've seen people like genuinely for Global, because of the slight changes in some of the scheduling, like people complaining that the anniversary is like boring because we did have a gap in between like the part 1 banners, then a couple of other things came out, and then I think we went like 5 or 6 days where like just nothing happened basically, including a weekend. So obviously in the middle of a huge celebration, it does feel a little bit disappointing when they could have just like spread the content out a little bit. But
that's called self-control, my friend.
Well, yeah, exactly. This is what
yourself.
we're saying, right? Is a lot of people will only play the game for like 30 to 60 minutes a day. So when like 10 events come out on one day, that's enough content for them for like the rest of the week. But obviously for some people it's not, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like they're changing that sort of format anytime soon. So just kind of have to get used to it. But yeah, Battlefield.
I do think people did overreact to that too.
Yeah.
For what that comment was saying as well, for sure.
I think people were
just a little like, it was a little silly.
Yeah, I think it's because people were super hyped for that, especially for me, like I was as well, right? Because like I said, they were kind of like that final piece for making the Super Bosses team on Global like really, really good. And then it was just like, well, when are they coming out? They're not in the news. We haven't had the data download yet. But yeah, as always, not really surprising. But yes, people definitely overreacted when it comes to like whether it's on Twitter or Reddit or whatever. And yeah, Battlefield medals, or Battlefield memories, I guess it should be really, is still an ongoing issue. I finally managed to EZA my Barbary and Deborah thanks to the anniversary special Battlefield, but now I don't have any points for anything else. So it is what it is. So,
listen, bro, they just need to like dump a bunch in the box for Global. That's what they need to do.
They should really, for everyone. Like there's you know, you can't get everything in the shop on JP either. So yeah, just give out more currency. Yeah, but shout out to JC Gamer for that one.
Anyway,
shout out to Philip Rodriguez for the $2 super chat. They should have given Jiren a meditation sprite. I think a lot of people were kind of expecting him to maybe have a standby that was like the meditation thing. What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah. Funny enough, I literally mentioned that in the animation analysis video. I was like, this feels like the perfect opportunity when he closes his eyes to like have him do the meditation. But I don't know if they're just saving that for something else, because I feel like if that's what they were gonna do, they would have made that the standby art. But the standby art is him just standing there with the iconic manga fart cloud animation, of course, that people have been loving.
Come on, chill.
But
it's supposed to be fire, bro.
I think the art is good. I'm not gonna lie, but the memes have been quite funny. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels like, I know we say this all the time, like, oh, they're saving it for another unit, but I feel like if they're gonna do that, maybe they would do it for a whole nother unit, because I would feel like, yeah, him meditating would be in the art if they were gonna go that route. You know, so
yeah,
I don't know.
It strikes me as he could be one of those units, kind of like the LR Beerus from the anniversary, where it's like he's in that mode and he can't attack like right from the start, and it could be the like meditating Jiren, and then he has then he like wakes up. Like that'd be kind of cool. Have him wake up and have like on the turn where he wakes up, because that's the other thing that was missing that I know people wanted that we didn't mention, is the eye glare like super attack counter. That would have been something really awesome for him to have. So there's still a bunch of stuff they could use for another Jiren in the future. Let's see if they wait like 4 years this time again. But I guess we'll see.
I hope not.
So shout out to Philip Rodriguez. Sokodo with the $2 super chat says that now that Jiren is out, does he have a spot on super bosses? So what do you guys think as the JP? Do you think Jiren is a run on the super bosses team, or
super bosses is Jiren? I mean, you can't name 6 characters that you're running over him on that team right now.
I think it's just more so like the thing that makes me think is it's like the synergy with the rest of the team, I guess, because like none of the other units are a super class. I mean, I guess you could run like Kefla and Topo and so I guess the super bosses team kind of morphs more into being more Universe Survival Saga themed if you're going to run him and some of the other units, right? Because obviously if you're running like Rose, Physical Goku Black, Cell Max, like Jiren probably doesn't really fit very well on that build. Or you could literally just run, I mean, you could literally just run those guys and then have one of the rotations just be Jiren and Topo, I guess. Like, that's one of the interesting things, because like Zamasu's team I used for a random video the other day and used a rotation of like Int Buu and Bootanks, because they can just sit by themselves on one rotation and they're fine together, and then the other rotation can be like the Zamasus and the Goku Blacks and stuff. So I guess you could make a team build like that for super bosses, but
I just think he's too good to not toss on, even if it doesn't work. Sometimes that's just how it works.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody saying actually that he's like the best floating unit in the game, because if you have him in slot 3, he gets all of those buffs and everything. If he's in his standby, he's invincible. So yeah, you could like throw him on any team pretty much, and obviously with the leader skill ideally. But yeah. So
it's also pretty contingent on the TEQ Jiren EZA, because he'll fit on there too.
Yes. Because if his EZA is really good, like we said, and like a slot 1 unit, then that could be a rotation on the super bosses team as well. Yeah, so it could be very, very good. So yeah, shout out to Sokodo for that one. I mean, he's a global player too, so we'll have to wait for Jiren, but we'll see. Shout out to Minato. Minato popped in as well to say hi with the $2 super chat, so appreciate you. We have Socrates with the $5 super chat. What do you think about the discourse of Global versus Gogeta and Broly and how hard they were dogging them? So I don't know if you guys have seen any of this kind of discourse. This is kind of what it's kind of tied into what I was saying about like the Kid Buu thing and stuff, where it's like Global's waited so long to get Gogeta and Broly, and then I think it's like compared to some other stuff that we've either seen from JP or stuff that has come out, Golden Week and stuff like that. Like, I think it's not much of a stretch to say, like, before transforming, like, Super Saiyan Gogeta, I would say that, like, Golden Week Super Saiyan 3 Goku is better than him, right? And obviously this is a unit that we then had to wait, like, 6 months to get. Of course, this isn't going to happen again in the future now anymore, thankfully, because of the sync, but I think that's always kind of a global issue. So I don't know if you guys saw much of that discourse or, like, what you guys think about it, but...
Honestly, I kind of hate to say it, but this is basically nothing new. This happens time and time again. Every single time that Global finally gets these characters that people have been waiting for so long, but because JP is ahead, JP has characters that people consider more quote-unquote exciting, or like more powerful than them, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
but obviously it's just kind of like that, well, I don't have this, so it's better than the thing that I'm getting type of mentality, right? Where people see it and it's like, well, I don't have access to this, but this other thing that is so close but just out of reach does. It's like, well, my thing is bad, right? And it's like, well, no, it's just because you don't have the ability to get it yet. It happens every single time, really, that like JP gets some big hype new unit and then Global gets something that's been looked forward to, but people feel like it's like either lower on the scale compared to the thing JP has, or they feel like they've fallen off or something like that, you know, on the Global side of things. I think the only time, or the only reason rather, that just makes this one different is people have been just kind of shouting louder about it because it's the anniversary. People have just been discussing it more and have been more vocal about it because it's, you know, Gogeta and Broly, and because it's these anniversary characters. So
yeah,
honestly, I don't really think it's anything new. I think it's just more of it than is usually there for these type of things. So, and thankfully, just like Ningen said, like this will literally be a non-issue once the sync happens. So it's not even like this will be a thing for long.
Yeah, exactly. VILLUHFY, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that before we move on to the next one.
I think what you guys were just discussing, the one thing that came to mind is like, perceptually, it's always going to be the grass is greener on the other side, right? It's like what I don't have is always more appealing, but yeah, no, these characters, the downplay of these characters, I think, is a bit silly. They're fun.
Yeah, especially Broly. Like, I can't stress enough. Like, you know, I'm super having fun with Broly and the Super Bosses team. So,
but
definitely not.
When you can use Gogeta's taunt, it's better than Beast. Because Beast can potentially take a super for a little bit. Gogeta literally takes 0.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
So,
it's just obviously dodge disabling is a thing.
But yeah.
But when you get Gogeta's taunt, it's better.
Yeah. Great. I think both the Part 1 units are super good, super fun to use. But yeah, it's always the way. But hopefully not for much longer. I guess we'll see. Fingers crossed. But shout out to Socrates for that one. We have Philip Rodriguez gifted 5 memberships to the channel as well. Appreciate you. Paul Rotherland updated his membership. 10 months is a member. 2 months until the gold badge. Let's go. Yeah, we appreciate you. Socrates, member for 3 months. I was genuinely begging for Gamma 1 and 2 for them to be part 2 originally. I was dancing in my chair when they revealed them. Big hype. So there are some people out there excited for Gammas. I know a lot of people were expecting if Beast was going to be part 2 that Cell Max would be the other LR, and then a lot of people were not happy with that idea. And then obviously we ended up getting the Gammas, and then Cell Max did eventually come out as a standalone LR. I think it's just one of those things where, like, the Gammas are a really good unit. It's just the fact that they are the opposite banner to Beast, which is the one that everybody wants. So it's like, even as a creator, like, I'm in the position where if it takes me all my stones to get Beast, I will just get Beast and just not get the Gammas, because even though they are good, like, Beast is the one you want. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's not even necessarily that people are underrating them. It's just that, like, everybody wants Beast first and foremost, and then obviously if you do get Beast nice and early, and then depending on whether you do want to chase dupes or not, then obviously summoning for the Gammas is still a good idea, because that superhero team is incredibly good. So
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the Gamma's definitely a fun unit, definitely worth summoning for. Their banner is good. So yeah, very good. Edwin Mendez with the $2 super chat says Evo Ken's best team is Orange Piccolo, Superheroes, and Battle of Wits. Yeah, that's a good 200% team. I mean, if, yeah, as we've said, Piccolo's still pretty good, so maybe we'll try that out when they get their EZA on Monday. And then we have Prof, member for 14 months. Need to use this message. So, new hidden potential branch for EZA. Amatsu is the devil and Heroes is the best timeline of all. I mean, yes, fellow heroes agenda pusher, you know.
Dang.
But yeah, that would be very interesting. Like, if some sort of super EZA or something like that, yeah, an extra branch on the tree for the hidden potential. That would certainly be an interesting change to the game. It'd also be crazy though, because it means any units now going back, like, imagine a unit gets an EZA and they're like a really old unit that you already have Rainbow Link level 10, but it's like now you need an extra copy of them so you can open this like extra path in their skill tree.
Dude, and all of those dupes, and I'm sure people sell that they could have used to fill in them. But, yep. Oh man,
I made a joke that it would be like exclusive orbs, like Legends does Zenkai's for souls.
Oh god.
Yeah.
It's like,
that
yeah,
would be crazy.
they'll give
Yeah.
out free ones, but the missions take 2 weeks.
Oh God.
Jeez.
All right, well, there you go.
man.
That was the final one on the list. So shout out to Prof. As I said already, shout out to everybody who contributed for this episode. We do appreciate you guys helping to support the podcast. So yeah, thank you all very much.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We really, really appreciate all of your support. Thank you, everybody, to coming through for this episode. It was a great time this week. Obviously, we'll be back next week once again with Gohan Beast shenanigans.
Oh,
I
yes.
think you should be out by then.
Yep.
And obviously, we'll have, I don't know, actually, no, we may have some stuff regarding the next JP Dokkan Fest by then, maybe not. I would think we maybe at least would have the teaser or something like that. So
Maybe.
we will have to see, but we'll have plenty to talk about in terms of global anniversary, so don't you worry. But obviously, before we close out this episode, of course, VILLUHFY, thank you so much for coming through and taking the seat of our traitor Minato.
What did I say? He sent me a DM. He's like, Vil, the podcast's legacy. I need help. And I was like, don't worry. Daddy's got you.
Daddy's home. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming by and being the guest. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was a good time.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Definitely. And definitely don't forget to check out VILLUHFY's channel and all of his stuff in the description below. And with all of that being said, we will see you on the next episode of the Slot One Super Podcast. Thank you so much for coming by, everybody, and have a fantastic weekend.
Peace out.